Hello there, people of the internet. I am Cliff Harris, or Cliffski. I am the programmer and designer of this game, Production Line by Positech Games. It's basically me. And I am not going to do a normal developer video this week, but what I'm going to do is I am going to give you I have picked 8 tips for playing the game that you may or may not need depending how long you've been playing. So here we go. So tip number 1 is to use smart junctions. Smart junctions are an underused part of the game. This is a smart junction here. So what I'm doing is I'm using this to send some cars down here and other cars onwards. So in this case I'm saying go left if you have a panoramic sunroof, otherwise carry on. So the slots down here, they are only going to be fitting that type of sunroof. That makes life a lot simpler for them because they always process at the same rate. They always require the same resources. But that's just one of the ways that you can use a smart junction. You can also use them in design mode if you've got particular designs that you want to go through one route in your factory, or they're used a lot in defect mode. So in that case you would check whether or not a car had a defect, and you would send it off for rework to have that defect fixed without holding up all the other cars, because you would then rejoin. But the most common use is probably features like this. So for example, if you have an electric powertrain, you would want to send your cars off to have batteries fitted in a dedicated slot. Rather than just have all of the cars go through exactly the same slot, and then the slot having to sort of cater to everyone and run at different speeds. So tip number 2 is about defects. Defects happen to your cars over time. Let me just find, oh here we go. You can see here loads of cars with defects. Basically every time something is done to the car, every time an operation happens to add something to the car, there is a chance it will have a defect. Now what you can do is I'm not actually using smart junctions here, which is outrageous, but you can then send them through dedicated areas for rework. So here we are, rework to fix defects. Now the main point here is that not all defects are as bad as each other, and if you click on a car and look at its defects, you can see the severity and you can see when they happened. So this one happened when we fitted lights to the car, this one happened when we fitted electrical components. The longer each defect goes without being fixed, the higher the severity goes, because that is a problem that you've piled loads of components on top of that you'll have to disassemble the car in order to fix. So don't wait just until you ship the car to fix defects. Check for defects a bit earlier and fix them soon after they happen. Tip number 3 is a hard one to spot and to find, and I probably won't see it happen because I'm aware of it and I work on this stuff. But occasionally resources get refunded. Now you see that when we actually use some resources, I've got a bit of a, you see these blue things going up here, that's we've used that many resources. Very rarely, if you're doing things right, you will see them going up in green saying refunded. I doubt it's going to happen because I've got smart junctions to prevent it happening here. The reason that happens is you have a slot that is going, oh, there you go, refund used. I'm pointing like an idiot, but it just happened here. The reason it happens is you have resources in the stockpile for a slot. It's happened again there, so it's this slot here. You have resources in the stockpile for a slot that have not been used for a long time, and what the slot does is it realizes that it could use that space for resources it actually needs. Now if you have a slot like these where I haven't set it up that well and I'm basically fitting all wheels at all slots, you will find that the slot guesses wrong about what resources it's going to need. So it fits alloy wheels, it thinks, oh well, I'm going to need loads of alloy wheels. It has loads of alloy wheels come in, and then a car comes along that needs 5-point wheels. So it has to clear out some of the alloy wheels and get in the 5-point wheels. If it does that a few times, the alloy wheels will sit there and it will think, I don't need these, and it will refund them. You get your money back, but it slows everything down. It's a waste of efficiency. The way to prevent that is to use smart junctions and multiple slots. The other way to do it is to make sure you don't mix and match your car production. If you look here, you can see I've got a bit of everything going through all the time. This is quite typical. But if instead of doing this, I manufactured 100 vans, then 100 sports cars, then 100 compact cars, the throughput of the cars would be a lot more predictable. The slots would guess right most of the time, and we wouldn't waste time on refunds. Another tip, unused space still counts. So this space here that I'm not using, you might think it doesn't matter, but we still pay rent on all of this space that we've unlocked, and it's even worse down here. If I go down here, look at this. I needed this bit, but I'm still renting all of this, and I'm still paying for lighting and heating for this. It's not a lot of money, but it is some money. So don't unlock something unless you're going to use it. This was a mistake. I wanted to use this area, and I've kind of unlocked space that I don't want here, or at least I don't want yet. If you're going to unlock an area, do it when you have enough capital to kind of like build out the entire area, and do it so you've got a plan, because otherwise you'll end up kind of like bunched up here and spread out there and all the rest of it. So don't forget, all of these empty tiles are kind of costing me money. If you want to know how many, you can look here, factory utilization 40%. That's really bad. You want that to be as high as possible. Another tip that people don't often realize, if you look at pretty much any slot, I've got major bottlenecks everywhere on this on this one. It's pretty bad. Let's pick one that's not quite so bad. So if we pick this, the waiting for next vehicle, even if you've got like loads of cars coming up to you, so even if we go, for example, to here, there's still a little bit of waiting for next vehicle, even though we never are, look, because there's always cars waiting to come into this slot. That's because it takes time for that car to actually move into position so that we can work on it. If you have faster conveyors, that time is reduced, and overall that really matters. So this is something you can research. Where is it? It is under efficiency somewhere. Bum bum bum. Faster conveyor and then high speed conveyor rollers. That makes a difference. You should research that. Something else people forget about the game, or they don't know, or they don't realise it's in there after they first see it, is you can pause a slot. They've all got pause buttons, they're very small. So if I go to this production line here, I can just pause it and it will stop until I manually go back in and restart it. If you want to like change the layout of conveyors in front of a slot, or you're just producing too many of a certain thing, and you want to reduce the amount of resources you're importing without actually deleting a slot or anything like that, you can pause and resume slots. You can do it with anything. There is a tech in the game that used to be called something different. We used to call it predictive stock control, I think, but people were very confused as to what it did. It's on a lot of slots. We renamed it. It's now called early stock consumption, so that people can understand what it means more. Again, it's under processes, and where is it? Blah blah blah. Early stock consumption here. What that does is, when a slot is working, it uses up the resources when it starts work, not when it finishes. Normally it's when you finish work is when you actually use up the resources for a slot. See if I can find an example. Here you go. That looked like it had it actually, and it did. Yeah, so the minute a car comes in, we use up all the resources. Boom, there they go. What that does is it means you free up some space in the stockpile at the slot earlier than you would otherwise. If you're fitting something really simple and you don't use money, say you're fitting a steering wheel, you probably don't need this, to be honest, because you've probably got 16 steering wheels, and then you use a steering wheel, you've got 15, and before you've even fitted the next one, a replacement steering wheel will come in. If you're fitting wheels and you're also fitting, or you're fitting brakes with some sensors on at the same time, you could be using sort of 8 or so, or 9, I mean we just used 6 there on that one, resources at once. When you do that, you half empty that little slot stockpile, and depending how far you are away from the nearest importer or the nearest supply stockpile or manufacturing slot, it could take quite a time for new resources to come in, and you will then be sat there waiting for resources. You don't want to be waiting for resources, which is this yellow bit here. You really want to eliminate that as much as possible, and one of the ways you can do that is where you are using a lot of resources in one go. You go with what do we call it, early stock consumption. I've forgotten. Early stock consumption is, yes. This is the last tip that I'm going to give. Research ahead of the AI if you can. The AI will try and catch up with you, but it is important to be researching features especially. All of this stuff that you can add to your car, the powered steering adjustment, the power tailgate, etc. This is really late in the game that I'm looking at here, really late in the game. I think I've researched everything here. But it's important to realise that if you can research a tech when it is very rare, you get a huge bonus on that car. So you kind of get a premium. If you're effectively the first car company that with a compact car is including anti-lock brakes or whatever, that's rare at the moment, not very rare, then you get a premium on the normal market value of that. So basically when a new technology comes out, you charge over the odds, and eventually it goes down and it becomes more of a commodity. Now, because there are price ranges, you will have to do a lot of process research and optimization in order to add loads of features to your really cheap cars. So this is down here, I'm right up against the limit. I could add these things now, but I'll probably go over the limit. But basically the common price, that's what's expected, that's where you make normal profit. What you really want is some of these green ones where it's very rare. That's where you're actually going to be making money. So if you look at sort of late game cars like this, I'm probably barely breaking even on universal stuff, a very tiny profit on the common stuff, but stuff like automatic steering assist, I'm going to be that's where I make the money. And the large touchscreen, which do cost a lot in cars, they don't actually cost this amount, I discovered. Just the one in mine went wrong, and no, they don't cost that amount. But anyway, whatever. So try and research tech before the AI does, not later. Don't be playing catch up. That's a way to be able to charge a lot more and make decent profits. Obviously the game's a lot more complicated than that, and it's a lot to do with the layout of things. The layout is really important. Get your layout right. And also make sure that you've got the right mix of cars. If you have an empty showroom, that's a bad sign. You should be putting your prices up. If you have a stupidly full showroom, that's a bad sign. You aren't marketing enough, or your cars are overpriced. There's a lot more to it than that, but hopefully those eight tips are quite handy if you've just picked up the game and you've come across this video. We're still working on the game and changing some things and improving some other things. I've just changed something here. I'll just mention it while I'm doing this video. That this used to be 2 columns, it's now 1 column, and you can sort by any of these things. You can sort both ways by clicking each way. So this shows me that I'm consuming 609 servos. I'm only producing 284, and I've got 255 stockpiled. I'm importing 325 of them where I could be making them locally. So Oh, these are the wrong way around. I need to fix that. But this is basically here what I'm paying to import stuff. $196,000 per hour on the large battery pack. Yeah, I need to fix that. There's a few other little tweaks that are going in and improving the kind of UI of stuff at the moment. Another thing is in here where this red just used to be components, whereas now the first few it calls out as being the ones that are costing you the most money over time. So you can see it's large touchscreen, small battery pack, Napa leather seats. I should be making more small battery packs in-house basically. Anyway, loads of stuff like that is still being worked on and still going in. Hopefully these tips were interesting, and I will do another developer video next Sunday. Thank you for watching.